Hello and welcome back to the channel for another Doctor Who video. Today I'm going to be turning my attention to the Centenary special, the final episode of the current era, the final episode for Jodie Whittaker and for showrunner Chris Chibnall as well. And it's an episode that, in the coming months I'm going to be discussing quite a bit, I would have thought, because it doesn't come out until October, I think, or sometime in the autumn. But specifically today, what I want to talk about is the main antagonist of the episode, or so we think, as far as we know. Obviously, spoilers if you haven't heard this yet, but to be honest, I think it is pretty out there now. The Master is, presumably gonna be in this special. It's not been officially confirmed. The first hint to it we got was a photo taken on set back in, I don't know, the autumn or summer of last year sometime, and it was a prop guy, a member of the crew holding a box that very clearly had the phrase Master's Props or something like that scribbled onto the side of it, and some onlooker had just taken a photo of that. Which, was pretty self-explanatory as to what that was referring to. Of course, since then, we've had it sort of hinted at within the show itself, at the end of The Vanquishers, when the Doctor is warned about the forces that are converging around her or something like that, and their master, in very unsubtle terms. So yeah, I think it is safe to assume that Sash Dhawan is in this episode. And what I wanted to think about was, what sort of role he's going to be playing in the episode, what we're going to be seeing from his master. Because, over the years, we've had so many different takes on the Master, different actors taking on the role. We've had so many different stories and storylines involving the Master and different interpretations of the character. I think, personally speaking, what I want to see in this episode is a good old-fashioned, traditional Earth invasion story for the Master. That would be my number one point here, because, we sort of got that in Series 12 when he was revealed in Spyfall, but then after that moment it very quickly changed and shifted in Spyfall Part 2 to a story about the Master sort of playing the role of the meddling monk, with him sort of moving between different time zones and causing a bit of chaos in Spyfall Part 2. And so the whole sort of Earth invasion thing gets a bit lost in the mix there, I think it would be fair to say. What do I mean when I use that phrase? What I mean is, a good old-fashioned, traditional Roger Delgado Master sort of story. Back in the day with the first Master, in the Third Doctor's era, the vast majority of those stories, with a couple of exceptions like Colony in Space, Frontier in Space, things like that, the vast majority of them were set on Earth. Obviously the Third Doctor and the Master were both sort of exiled to Earth, or sort of stranded on Earth at least. And so there wasn't any moving between different time zones or moving across space or anything like that. It was all very contained, on the Earth, with the Master sort of maybe teaming up with another alien race, like the Autons and the Nestine in his very first story, or the Axons in Season 8, or whatever the hell is going on, the Time Monster with, is it Kronos, I think, the sort of time god thing? Basically, that is the type of story that I would like them to pay tribute to in the Centenary special, and to basically do a sort of modern, updated version of that. Of course, one other thing to bring into this is that UNIT is assumed to be in the special as well, for various reasons, not least because a UNIT insignia was glimpsed on set, before even UNIT came back in Flux. That was sort of the first thing we heard about their return. Then obviously Kate Stewart came back in Survivors of the Flux, and the way things were left with her at the end of The Vanquishers, it was very strongly implied that she would be meeting this incarnation of the Doctor again in some way or another. And the most sensible place for that meeting to take place would of course be the Centenary special. So potentially we are going to get a really old school sort of Third Doctor era-esque Master versus UNIT story. Master invades the Earth, then UNIT get involved and sort of team up with the Doctor to defeat him. Because that's a type of story that we haven't really properly had in revived Doctor Who. We've come fairly close, most notably I think the Series 8 finale, the second half of that specifically, Death in Heaven, which also featured the Master, or Missy, and Kate Stewart and UNIT. But in terms of the actual screen time that the Master and UNIT and Kate all got together in that story, it really wasn't that much at all. From memory, you basically have that first scene where Kate rocks up and she's all badass and sort of confronting Missy, and they imprison Missy and then they put her on the plane. And then basically, later in the episode, Missy sort of kicks Kate out of the plane and she falls to Earth. And that's it in terms of, the interaction we get between those two characters. Two fairly central and fairly major characters, the Master and the modern equivalent of the Brigadier, who obviously fought the Master multiple times in the Jon Pertwee era. So I'd really like to see them do a bit more with that whole concept and whole idea in the Centenary special, of having the Master come up against the Brigadier's daughter, have a proper showdown between the two of them. That would be so epic. It's something which we came close to having before, and then Stephen Moffat sort of just decided not to do it really. So give it us here, have Kate get revenge on the Master for chucking her out that plane, have her, totally take him down. It would be so great to see. There's also the possibility of the Master working with another alien race, once again, sort of teaming up with someone to get them to do his bidding in this story and to carry out his plan. As for what race that could be, there's been loads of speculation about the Cybermen because of how things were left in the Timeless Children with him and the Cybermasters. Personally speaking, that's not something I can see happening, like, a Cybermaster invasion of Earth. But hey, I'm willing to be proven wrong there. I wouldn't say no to seeing that. But then again, we've had so many sort of Master Cyberman stories, and it would feel like a bit of a rehash, I think, of the Series 8 finale if it was, the Master, Cybermen, and units on present-day Earth all over again. And more broadly, how will all this fit into the 13th Doctor's time coming to a close and Jodie leaving the show? Will the Master be the one responsible for her regeneration? Because I was thinking about this, and although we've had the Master in a Doctor's final story, I think 3 times before, so firstly in Logopolis with the 4th Doctor, then with the 10th Doctor at the End of Time, and then of course the 12th Doctor with World Enough Time and the Doctor Falls, we got 2 for the price of 1 there. Although we've had the Master in all those stories, only in the first one of those, in Logopolis, is he actually responsible for the Doctor's demise. In the End of Time, it's not the Master that kills the 10th Doctor off, and similarly with the 12th Doctor in the Doctor Falls, it's not the Master that kills him off either. So I think that would actually be quite refreshing to see the Master being the one specifically responsible for a Doctor's demise. It's something we've not really seen since Logopolis, and certainly not in revived Doctor Who. Just one more final wildcard suggestion. We've heard about how there are going to be these forces massing around the Doctor and the Master being the one that's sort of in control of them. Could it be that the Master is going to team up with time? That this force of time that was sort of played around with and explored a bit in Flux. Could it literally be, the 13th Doctor's time coming to a close and time sort of being the one that's responsible for her death in quite a poetic sense, I guess? Could the Master team up with the Ravagers, with Swarm and Azure, also from Flux? Or even with Tim Shaw from Series 11, the very first villain that the 13th Doctor faced. Chris Chibnall does love his circularity with sort of your monster from your opener returning for the finale. We had that with Tim Shaw in Series 11, we had that with the Master in Series 12, and then of course with the Sontarans and the Ravagers in Flux. So could that be on the cards? Could we even get a Master, Tim Shaw and Ravagers team up, a massive team up between all 3 of those sort of big bad finale villains? Strange things have happened. I would personally say that that's not very likely, but who knows? So yeah, I'll leave you with that thought. But what do you think of all of this? What do you want to see from the Master in the Centenary special? What sort of storyline do you want to see with his character? Please do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I would love to hear what you've got to say. Please do also like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't already. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.